There you go. We're live.
All right, welcome to another Thursday night of the Guitar Gear Locker. And once again, tonight we are joined by our friends, special guests Jeremy from Sanhedrin and Matt from Ringworm and a zillion other bands. So tonight we're going to discuss the evolution of death metal guitar playing. And this is actually Roger's idea, I think, a little while back, you know. So, yeah, so I mean, I guess what we could get into is basically the style and how it how it happened. How at least how I see it, how it happened. We'll get to everybody and tone as well. And obviously we can you know everything stems from Tony Iommi, but I'm gonna fast forward a bit and skip over all the great guys of the 70s and even for the most part most of the new wave British heavy metal guys.
Right.
And for me, um, it kind of really starts with two guys that I can think of in particular, and not the quote unquote shred guys or anything like that. And but one is Mantis, and the other would be Bones from Discharge.
Hmm.
And the reason I say that, there was a certain ferociousness that just didn't really exist before those two guys, and I'm sure Mantis took a bit, or at least Venom in general, from Discharge, and obviously, I think there's a lot of punk rock and listen to early Venom.
And Motorhead, obviously. Too.
Yeah, and Motorhead, yeah. But those two guys, I would say predate a little, right before Tom Warrior from Hellhammer and Mike Torreo from Possessed, and which I consider all real key guys, Hanneman and King, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like Larry from Necrophagia and Chuck from Death and all these and Piggy from Voivod, I think, had a big influence on Death as well as like we were right before this. Me and Matt were talking about Dark Angel, and I got to credit Jim Durkin too, and some Eric Meyer and Millie too. Like if you, especially on Pleasure to Kill, it's like that tone on there and just the riffs. It's just
Sodom as well. Sodom is pretty death-like.
Absolutely. The whole German thrash thing, Mike from Destruction. And all those guys. But for me, it's like those guys. Even like Slaughter. Like as far as guitar tones. But and obviously, I think Slaughter definitely took a bit from Frost and
a lot.
But yeah, I mean, but for me, that's kind of where it starts. Like I said, obviously, we could talk about all the great players of the 70s and hard rock players and new wave British heavy metal, but there wasn't there wasn't that kind of tone that existed and that ferociousness to the playing. I think before those guys. So yeah, so you get the rest of you guys' thoughts on this of where it kind of started in a sense.
You pretty much nailed it. Yeah. I mean, Venom is a big starting point. Obviously, I would say, and then all the then you 84 Hellhammer and Mantis and Possessed and all the Necrophagia, so many demos in 84. Popping up all over the world,
Yeah.
You brought up like Discharge, which I think a lot of the stuff that you were referencing kind of references like the rhythmic kind of tonality of death metal, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
But also like there's like the attitude of sort of reckless abandon. Like when I hear even modern death metal's sort of jazzy approach to lead guitar playing, I think like where does Greg Ginn from Black Flag fit into like influencing maybe some of the earlier bands with that approach of like, oh wait, music can be like lead guitar could be like super noisy and uncomfortable and create like anxiety and just have like more of a esoteric feel. Like if you listen to Hanneman and King later, it's like I feel like they take a lot from that, perhaps.
Yeah.
It's kind of like where punk and metal fuse, and then I think later on, I guess after post thrash things get even wilder. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Big
Bob up there.
Trey's the man. I love Trey.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Trey, I mean, you wouldn't have, what Richard and Trey did with their solos. I mean, obviously they took a lot from Hanneman and King because it wasn't that type of chaotic leads like that,
Right.
Like not knowing what you're doing, but the feel behind it, it's just like some chaotic demon speaking.
So what changed? Trying to figure out how to phrase a question. So, like we had metal, we had rock and roll. So, what changed when the guitar became heavier? What did they do to make it heavier? Like what techniques, what sounds? Did that make sense? Did I answer that correctly?
Speed and precision come to mind, and just like a sort of just like faster. Things were getting faster, and then like death metal and also grindcore were kind of like, let's take this to its ultimate place. But I think
Slayer was a stepping stone from Venom to that. You know what I mean? Big time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Slayer, like Venom was heavy and nasty, but Slayer took what Venom did and made it like legitimately kind of like evil sounding and scary beyond what Venom was doing, because they had more precision about their playing too. And I think that the riffs were just more hellish, which is hard to say.
Okay.
You compare anything to Venom as more hellish, but I think
nothing was more hellish than Venom when Venom came out.
Like
there was no such thing as more hellish than Venom.
Like Venom is like that breakthrough, and then the bands are like, let's take that and really hone in on it. Kind of like how early proto heavy metal was like, let's take the heaviest parts that we like from like the hard rock bands like Cream and stuff, and just make the whole band that.
Right. Now, Jeremy, as a music teacher, as a guitar teacher, what techniques are different? What scales, what notes, chords, etc.?
Well, the thing I'll teach my students that are really into like more extreme music is like, I'll teach them the rules, but I'll be like, also know that these rules are supposed to be broken. So maybe I'll teach them a natural minor scale, but then, from there, teach them the Phrygian scale. But then from there, be like, and if you just want to hit a sour note because a sour note sounds cool,
right?
You should.
Right.
But a lot of it's like precise picking, alternate picking, and like palm muting in a way that translates through the speaker with like maximum power,
Right. I'll throw in. I know I see all the comments popping in. Bill Sears, what did it for me when I heard it? Mentally Murdered EP that made me want to play guitar. Just pop through some of these real quick. Genius Killer. Bill Steer, very influential, and Laura agrees. Cool. Caught up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure who said it first. I think Jeremy, you said evil, and I guess me being the elitist I am, death metal, it's got to be dark and evil, and there was something happened that, in the 90s where it became just this kind of like brutal kind of, I don't know, palm muting kind of thing. And for me, that's not what the whole essence of death metal is about.
Right.
It's got to be dark and evil, and it's got to be brutal as well, but not this kind of like more, I don't know how to explain it.
It's a vibe.
You're talking about the New York kind of sound. The real brutal, the ultra brutal New York sound.
Right.
Suffocation sound, basically, which a million bands copied.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, still to this. Yeah.
So how many bands have that? How many bands have you seen do the riff? dun 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 dun. And some bands just have whole bands of just that riff, you know, or variations of it, you know.
It's like
and I never. Yeah, I'm with you. I like the Morbid Angel style a lot more than the brutal, ultra brutal style. You know.
You know, and you said about rules. You know, the thing is, there wasn't any rules. I mean, I could say from when I started playing this kind of music, it really wasn't much of a genre, I guess, in a sense, then at all. But everybody was still trying to figure it out, you know. So we were still kind of like stumbling upon things, you know, of you know the riffs and all that. So it was kind of exciting then. But you know, early on, like Matt said, like Venom, like really like Venom just kind of like came out of nowhere and just like you know dropped a bomb on everybody. And you know, obviously, you know, Slayer comes out, and then you have something that's more tight and articulate and picking and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that was a big, you know, a big step forward was Jeff and Kerry's picking. You know, their attack, the percussiveness, and the tightness of the whole thing. You know, that Venom didn't have. You know, Venom was just kind of like a big explosion. You know,
Mantis. I think Mantis is pretty good. Like it's the drums that really throw Venom. You know, make him so loose. You know,
I agree because I think you know Mantis I think he's a good guitar player, and you know Kronos and Abaddon. You know, they were not the players that Mantis was, and he kind of gets overshadowed by that. But at the same time, I'm one of those guys that Venom getting tight, I don't want to hear that. You know,
no, I like it the way it is. I like it just the way it is. Yeah.
There's a vibe to a band that sounds like it could fall apart at any moment, and like there's like a danger in that sound. You know,
right? Let's see, Terrence Hobbs, super influential. He invented Slam. We have one more. Imagine hearing Slayer for the first time back then. Yeah.
It's funny Terrence inventing Slam. I mean, Terrence's influences weren't that kind of music. So, you know, he was all about destruction and Slayer and stuff like that. So it's kind of funny how that happened, you know.
What do you all think and this is just me asking my everyday guy questions like I do. So do you all think when you get into the darker music and things like that, that's where you kind of, it's more, and Alex, you and I have talked about this, where it's whatever sounds good, it's not in a pentatonic box anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Like there is no rules. It's if it feels right and sounds right, then you go with it, you know.
Right.
And obviously over time. Yeah.
A lot of chromatic riffs and
a lot of half step moves and dissonant chords that sound bad, like on purpose, but because it's you try to create this sense of evil and vibe and just tension and
chaos.
Yeah. But in the early days, everybody wanted to play well, just didn't know how to do it at that time. You know, so
it was a primitive. It was a primitive. Everybody was young. All those bands were super young.
Yeah.
A lot of those bands had record deals before they could play. You know, before they learned how to play. You know?
You're hearing people who are really motivated to get good at their instrument and push themselves to like their limits when they're songwriting, which is a brave thing for any player to do, I think. But like to listen to some of these bands evolve from like their first demos or records to what they became as players is like a cool thing to kind of bear witness to also.
Right.
Yeah. I think that was. Yeah. I'm sorry, Matt.
Oh no, but Sodom, it was a pretty quick. I mean, it sounds like the drums on the early stuff sound like shoes in a dryer, and then by Persecution Mania, they're really ripping, and Creator did that, and a lot of those, but you could tell those bands were just working their asses off, you know.
Yeah, like Millie with the 2-finger leads, you know. You know, but there was something sick about that, you know.
Yeah, it's cool sounding though. It was like it's like when we were all young and starting our first bands, like the number one thing I tried to do when I was starting my first band was like, all right, I know what I can't do, but what can I make sound as good as possible with like my limitations? So stuff like that is super prevalent with.
And a perfect guy that executed that perfectly was, you know, this guy, Tom Warrior from Frost and Hellhammer. I mean, you know, he wasn't the player. He wasn't, you know, as good as a player as, say, a Jeff Hanneman or something like that. But he worked to his strengths, you know, and today he has a career, you know, with this simplicity and the primitive, you know, riffs. But he expanded on that, you know. So, you know, and I think that's the real essence of death metal guitar playing for me is the vibe and the atmosphere and feeling behind everything.
You know what else Tom G. Warrior I think is responsible for, at least I think so, is creating that first real over the top guitar tone. You know what I mean? You know, like really putting all knobs to the right, and then on the overdrive pedal doing the same thing and trying to manage that. You know. And
I completely turning the tone
down.
It's like I always say, you know, the heaviest guitar player ever is Tony Iommi. Number 2 would be Tom Warrior. You know, and it's just like, you know, all these bands that tune down to G or whatever, you know, it's still nothing heavier than those 2 guys right there. Scoop the mids. I just saw that.
Yeah. I popped it up.
That'll happen.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I mean, but obviously, you know, by the late 80s, you know, people start to figure it out a little bit more, you know, of what's happening with the guitar playing. And, you know, even for myself, I remember my old band, it was, I wanted to incorporate like Merciful Fate with the death demos, you know, and because I wanted to have some melody in there, but still retain, you know, the dark, raw.
I think pretty across the board, Merciful Fate is a big influence on most death metal guys, especially 80s death metal guys. You know what I mean? But Merciful Fate's had a big push on that. You know?
Yeah, I mean, you can even hear it in that, a lot of stuff that you would do, you know, on the death metal stuff that you would do. There's that melodicness, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean, Michael Denner is an enormous, both of them really, but I like Michael Denner. He's the guy that like sings with his solos. You know what I mean? You know.
Yeah.
Now, do you all
Riffer? Mike was the solo guy.
Yeah.
You
know? I mean, Hank's a ripping. He's a ripping lead player too. They both are, but Michael Denner's just so melodic. You know.
Mm-hmm.
They also introduced to a degree to a different group of music fans like this crazy idea of like the way they arranged songs was very, you know, ahead of their time compared to other quote unquote heavy metal bands or traditionally heavy metal bands, where they would just take left-hand turns. Like there was no like verse, there were verses and choruses, but then there was just like this chaos about their songwriting arrangements that I think translates well later to bands that were influenced by them.
Metallica said they took a lot of that from directly from Fate.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And you can hear that. You know, you can see that real easily.
Do you all as performers feel like, you know, including each other, like when you hear bands, it's like, okay, I want to be darker, faster, better than that band, and like always like one-upping somebody?
In the 80s, yeah, for sure. You know,
yeah, I thought that's where we were.
Yeah. I could see for myself, I was pretty like I kind of wanted to kill all the thrash guys because they hated us and they talked shit on us. So you know, and that was the funny thing about, you know, the thrash scene started off so just, you know,
you know,
wow, we all just crashed.
Down goes Alex.
Alex said, I need an IT guy and a cleanup on aisle 3.
It's still working.
He's alive.
There he is.
Look at him. He starts talking about thrash guys and he's like,
they're like, I'll fix your ass.
He slammed his computer.
My computer down.
Give me a second here, and I'll take one of you guys talk while I'm fixing this thing.
Oh, you look. I mean, I think it's more entertaining to watch you.
Well, to that question, Roger, I guess whenever I have seen a artist of any kind, death metal or punk or whatever it is, that's doing something like extra, like more than I've ever seen before, it's kind of like, oh, they've unlocked a new possibility, and that can be inspiring. I wasn't part of any kind of competitive scenes. I mean, I always want to be the best band that my band can be, but like, yeah, I think it's more just like, this is the new sickest thing I've ever heard, which kind of expands your like parameters of what you consider cool before. It's different now.
Right. That makes sense. And you didn't crash your computer saying that. You didn't get all pissed off like Alex.
Not as violent as Alex, okay?
No, it seemed like, you know what? So Alex was coming up through the 80s. You were a little bit after that. So it was probably a little more competitive back then, maybe, right? I mean, for lack of better terms, competitive.
Yeah. Well, I'll kind of, if I can remember what I was saying before my camera crashed on me.
Thrash guys, you were talking about the thrash guys.
Yeah, there was definitely a, not all of them, but for the most part in our area, those guys, they were just like, like we came out, my old band, and they would talk a lot of smack, like, this is garbage, they called this like satanic noise or something like that. And we weren't satanic, but and the same thing happened with Immolation. We're both started at the same time, and they were kind of going through that in their area where a lot of those bands talk a lot of smack, and they weren't so accepting of what we were doing, and the funny thing is, if you go back in the beginning of thrash, like the attitude and the how pissed off that music was, and so it started to kind of get a bit weak, by
late 80s,
87
mid to late 80s,
and so I think we were kind of all the bands that started out around the same time as we did, around 87, 88, we kind of recaptured that attitude again that thrash had lost, and I think that happened that's why black metal kind of rose in the early 90s, because death metal, same thing was happening to death metal.
Yeah, it got soft, or it got like lame, just lame, kind of like a lot of repetition, a lot of the same sound. Everybody went to the same producers, and the what was super exciting 5 years before wasn't happening like that anymore. At that point, it was all kind of tame,
Well, it seems like a lot of music goes through those revolutionary early waves, and then there becomes like an orthodoxy that has to get adopted by a majority of people within it, where like, well, we were all pushing boundaries to create this new thing, and now if you push those boundaries, like it gets, or if it becomes a thing where you can't do that anymore, and then it gets stale. Because black metal, if you go on, that got stale too.
They all do. Everything does. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Well, does it get stale because of like the lack of creativity, or do music people get involved and make it more stale because it's more rushed, maybe? Like
there's a lot of reasons, I think.
Yeah, it's like there are many branches on that tree.
Labels offer bigger budgets, which makes then the shit gets too polished and too you got symphonic shit going on and stuff because the people have endless budgets to work with, and it's no longer what it started off as,
Right.
And it's natural for bands to want to get tighter and record better and stuff like that. So that happens, and then that kind of polishes the edge off of shit unintentionally, maybe. But
I think you lose your connection to the street level energy once you're kind of absorbed by the machine.
Yeah,
to some extent. That's probably part of it, but
sure, you know, and then you got the record labels just scooping up any band, you know, that plays a certain style or whatever. They're saying,
Yes.
you know, we're going to sign this one, and this one.
Right.
You know,
And that kind of makes sense. That's kind of what I was going out with that question. Alex, Fred Ward, is that black E2 arrow a string through or a Floyd?
that's a Floyd. It's a double. That's a double arrow.
a double arrow.
Double arrow.
Oh, I thought he said a double Floyd. I was like, what the hell is
Yeah.
that? It's a Floyd behind a Floyd.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, but I think, you know, the essence of the guitar playing is the attitude and you know, the approach, you know, to the playing, the feeling in the playing, and the tone as well. And tones are, you know, like, who's got a better tone than Tom Warrior, you know? But at the same time, when you try to play fast, that will get lost in the mix, you know? And I think Jerry, Jeff, and Kerry had a big part in her guitar tone, you know, as far as speed, because, you know, like, you wouldn't have Morbid Angel without Slayer, as far as I'm concerned, you know.
They brought a tightness to the guitar tone that it, like, a lot of people couldn't even really duplicate what they did. Like that sort of mid-range. Like when I hear a Slayer record, I often hear, like, you can hear the lineage, like from AC/DC's guitar tone, even like that Marshall growl, the pick hitting the metal string is still there.
They want to be Priest really bad. Those
But yeah, it's like Priest guitar tone and tightness, but with the Venom, you know,
aesthetic
imagery and aesthetic, and also, like, the lyrical aesthetic. Like, let's take what they did, which was super badass, and, like, you know, turn the knob up. Same with the.
I don't even think Slayer used like an overdrive in front of those 800s or anything. Just that MXR EQ, and they put the frown with the bump super
so
high.
you just boosting the front end in certain parts to get that sizzle where you want it. But
how about the equipment side of it? When you went, or again, like going from rock and roll and metal into the darker death metal and things like that, how did the equipment and the gear change?
They used the same. All those bands were using Marshalls. They were just cranking them, cranking the, just kind of like run them all, everything on 10, and then put an overdrive or a distortion in front of it. Basically, that's every one of those guys. You know, Piggy and all those. Everybody were Tom G Warrior, Tube Screamer in front of an 800. You know what I mean? You know,
right.
So they were using the same kind of gear that the earlier bands were using. They were just pushing it as hard as they could push it. You know?
Right.
And when you use that kind of equipment that's already around, if you want to get more gain, you have to change your approach and your attack with, like, how you play the guitar. And I think that's where the guitar playing evolved too, from like basic heavy metal to the more extreme stuff, was like just kind of, like there was nothing new yet. I feel like too, a lot of those bands early on, if you hear like their earliest works, they're using the best shit they can afford, and some of it's not that good. But it creates a sound, you know, like
but over time, I think all of this, you know, gain got less over time. You start to figure things out. Like, well, you know, if I got everything at 10, you know, because back then you just figure, well, turn the gain all the way up on the amp, turn my distortion pedal all the way up, you know, and then you kind of figure out how to dial things in, and you know, and then you don't need so much, you know. And depends on what you're doing. If you're playing like Frost, or you're playing like Obituary or something like that, where you're playing like bar chords and single notes, you can get away with a lot of gain, you know.
I like to just crank that level, like I use the SD1 in front of an 800, and I crank the level all the way up and the drive all the way down. So I'm not really adding gain. I'm just I'm pushing the tubes only, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
And then a magical tone knob to just find that sweet spot where it hits just right. Almost like a pedal, you know.
So that's a good you said tone knob. So you utilize the tone a lot, Jeremy.
Well,
like,
on the guitar too. Yeah, I mean,
playing like super heavy stuff. Like,
yeah. Well, I learned that from when I joined Black Anvil. The founding guitarist Gary was still in the band, and his favorite guitar player is aside from Iommi is Tom Warrior. And what I would notice from him when I was joining the band and like rehearsing was like he's a great rhythm guitar player, like brutally tight. But then I'd see him like mess with the tone knob from part to part, like you would turn on and off a pedal. So depending on what you're playing, if you want to add more sludge to it, you turn it down, but not all the way. Like there's sweet spots there. And then I think his inspiration was when he wanted to get the Tom Warrior vibe, it was turn the tone knob down to kind of get that thing, the thing. I don't know what.
I think Tom Warrior turns it all the way down, and then he has all the knobs cranked on the amp and all the knobs cranked on the tube screamer. So by turning the tone knob down, it's the only way you can keep that from feeding back like crazy,
Right.
Yeah. Plus it cuts off. Plus it cuts a lot of the mids out that way.
It keeps
Trevor does the same thing. That tone knob. Like I even asked him about it.
Who's that?
He's like, that's non-existent.
Trevor.
So it makes sense, because he was just trying to copy his guitar idol.
I like that tone knob all the way up, and I never fuck with it at all. Like,
I never.
I don't even need a tone knob. You can just leave it up and take it off the guitar.
I never touched it until I started playing with him, and then I was like hearing what he was pulling out by doing that, and I was just like, you know what? That's an idea, because you can almost use it the way you'd use like a fuzz box or something. When you want to add a little bit more big muffy qualities to it, you can turn it down.
Right.
Depends on what you're writing too, but it's usually it's not great for like the fast articulate stuff, but to when you're having those big open rhythms and stuff, it's a lot. It just kind of fills up. It pushes the band forward in a way that's just a little different.
Right. Takes the highs out, right?
It does, but that's more than that.
So, Jeremy, when you first got exposed to death metal, was it the guitar playing or the tone? What was it that attracted you to it?
I think I heard, because I had been familiar with like some pretty, with a lot of thrash and stuff, like good thrash, and then I think it was the vocals that initially caught my ear. Like, what the hell is that? And then you hear the guitar playing, and it's like a totally different way of writing riffs than I had ever heard. And so that kind of pulled me in. Not so much the tone, but I guess it's an overall vibe. Like we were saying before, like these bands, it's like maybe this member or that member is not the tightest or whatever, but when it's all pushing forward together, it just was something about it. So, and how thick and heavy it was compared to a lot of the music I had heard prior to it.
Right. We have you ordered the Jessup pedals Tom Warrior Morbid Tube Distortion. It's based on a TS-808. If it makes any sense.
I'm really curious about that pedal, even though I don't use distortion pedals anymore. I'm curious about it. I think I told Roger about that. Like that's something I have to own. Just to have it.
He did. He said, "I'm going to buy one just to have it. I don't use it, but I want one."
I almost did that with the new MXR Randy Rhoads Distortion Plus, but I was like,
I thought about that thing too.
I have a Distortion Plus that I barely ever plug in for any reason. So,
right.
Did you see that distortion pedal that Tom Warrior just came out with? That's like,
no, I didn't see it. I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
So what surprises me is I hear week in and week out a lot of heavy players talking about using tube screamers, and I think that they would use more aggressive distortion pedals, overdrive pedals.
Well, they're not using it as a distortion pedal per se, so much as an output booster that has its own sort of frequency curve. Like you hear a lot of people who use like rectifiers use them because rectifiers have a real flubby low end.
Yeah.
And then a tube screamer is like a mid boost that actually cuts some low end.
Shaves it right off.
Yeah.
That's like Rob and Eric, Jeremy. Remember they had the Maxim.
Yeah, they had the Maxim. It was like the super tube.
Yeah, because I'm not a big fan of the rectifiers, and I think I asked, it was either Eric or Robin. It's like, how are you guys getting that sound like that? And they're like,
good.
Well, there's like the Maxim version of the Ibanez tube screen.
The one that they use has an additional like bass control knob. So if you want to, you can actually add a little bit bass, to your liking.
Right.
Whereas like a tube screamer is just a tone knob,
which
doesn't add any bass. All it does is add more.
I like the SD1 is it's similar to the tube screamer, but it doesn't shave off as much of that low end. To me, it doesn't seem to.
No, you're right, because I used to use a tube screamer and I didn't care for it because I would have sound guys tell me, like, when you go to play your solo, I would use it as a solo boost, and they'd be like, your guitar starts sounding thin. And then with the SD1, or right now I'm using more like Klon style overdrives because they're more full range. But just the SD1 I put on my board for my new band. Well, it's the Wild Overdrive. It's based on the SD1. And I like how it has more girth to it than the tube screamer.
It doesn't
more muscular.
It just doesn't cut off all the low.
I still love the tube screamer though.
I do too. I still have a couple of them, but I tend to. I took it off my board that I use regularly, and I put the SD1 in its place. Just because it's the tube screamer's such a mid boost, and then does just shave off that low end completely almost.
Depending on the amp, it kind of thins it out. Like on a rectifier, I could see how it would be, preferable. But like if you're using a Marshall like you are, the SD1 keeps some of that low end that the tube screamer shaves off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, I kind of fell into that. Well, it's death metal, so it has to be a more harsh distortion, but because I think a tube screamer, I'm thinking like Stevie Ray Vaughan or something. Right. But you all explain that makes perfectly good sense.
It's utilized as a tool in a different way.
Exactly. And I think, let's see, I'm going to blow some of these out real quick. Stop using distortion pedals years ago.
Yep.
And this is when we started talking about, she said clean boost, when we started talking about tube screamers. EQD plumes, overdrives on Mode 2 is the tickets. These were flying in. The only thing you need is a Marshall.
You need a Marshall, and you need an overdrive in front of that
Marshall. I got a question for Necrosion. Is this egg roll or is that John speaking?
That's the 1991. I don't think it is. I'm going to blow through the rest while he's answering. HM2 clean boost is gnarly. Sound like Sasquatch.
Yeah. I tried that with my Metal Zone recently because I've always just used the Metal Zone as a goofy distortion pedal to goof around on, and I tried it as a clean boost, and it was pretty interesting.
I like this. The only thing you need is more evil in the speakers.
Oh, it's egg roll. Okay, what's up, Eggy?
Oh wow, it was scrolled down here. He likes orange better.
I'm looking at the comments.
Yeah, it scrolled on me. So yeah, it's egg roll.
I mean,
he said it's always him.
I know there's another Necrosion account, so I figured.
Yeah, well, it usually. Well, he probably changed it. Usually, it doesn't say 1990. He threw me off.
Yeah. So,
all right, sorry, I'm through now. I got them all done.
So I guess let's get to the 90s now. So how do you guys see things as far as the guitar playing? How it changed a bit from the 80s to the 90s?
I think that's maybe when the polished aspect started creeping in, like we're kind of talking about with like Suffocation and sort of that point of before and after them, of the technical aspect kind of creeps in, and it becomes sort of like there's a segment of death metal that seems to be like a pissing contest for speed and precision, which
that's also when the HM2 that sound
sure
to play too, which is a totally different
totally
more
different.
the shit that I paid attention to at that time. But
different thing happening at the same time.
All the Swedes and the Finns and all that shit,
to me that was like that to me seems like a throwback to like the primitive eras of the genre again.
Yeah. which is probably why I was drawn to that.
Cheap
more.
equipment, buzzy pedals, and just like playing at the edge of your ability, which isn't quite matured yet.
Yeah, I always related to more of the Europeans than most of the American style stuff. So I always appreciated,
with the exceptions of like Autopsy and Morbid Angel, and
right, absolutely,
yeah,
I totally agree. Yeah, but yeah, and obviously early Death. I got into Death. The demos still is right before Scream Bloody Gore came out, so it's like that stuff is still untouchable to me. Is like, and Scream Bloody Gore is just perfection.
Sure.
Wasn't much a fan after that, but
I like Leprosy, and then kind of
Leprosy. I could
after that,
I can take, but yeah, after that they lost me. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. More technical, more precision. I always kind of like I like how you brought up Autopsy and Morbid Angel. It's like I always like to try to keep that balance of both worlds. Like the tightness and precision of Morbid Angel, but still have that atmosphere and dark kind of sludginess in there. And to find that balance of both worlds, as far as at least my approach to death metal.
I love the way Autopsy utilizes those trouble riffs. They'll have the doomiest trouble riff, and then all of a sudden just blasting, hard out of the blue.
Yeah, like on Fiend for Blood, like that EP, like that's just like, it just sounds like they're falling off a cliff, and then it's just like some crazy kind of jazzy, kind of crazy riff or whatever. Super fast, because there is some really intricate stuff going on in there too, with Autopsy. It's just like super bizarre, and great players too. Eric and just unbelievable guitar players.
But they don't make technicality the focus at all. You know what I mean? It's all about being heavy.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Sick.
Yeah. And then at the end of the day, that's what makes it death metal. It's got to be dark, evil, and heavy.
Right. I think to your point about Death, like they got more technical and progressive, but I think they lost some of that atmosphere and like rage about their music that made them so interesting. Or so fresh.
That's fine if that's obviously
it's not a diss, because every artist goes on their own journey and kind of takes it where they want to.
Yeah,
but I could see where people who are into death metal for a certain thing hear that and go, they've gotten away from us.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You're gonna jump. People are gonna jump off the train at some when it loses them.
Right.
Yeah.
Rush,
Yeah.
Cheech. Hey, Cheech, how you doing? Can tell you how many debates and arguments I've heard about who started death metal between Death and Possessed.
Well, I'll even go a step further. I'll say, let's go with Hellhammer. So
the thing is, whoever invents the genre, it's done like well after the fact. Like I didn't think they were inventing heavy metal.
I'll go with Possessed and Death, though. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, at least when I was a kid, Possessed was kind of like the band that, they were like
they won the race. They got a record out before everybody else, so they won the race. So but I mean, we already were saying 84 was a year where Necrophagia and Possessed and Mantis and Death. I mean, Mantis and Death demos came in 84, and so many all around the world that was happening, and so you can't really pinpoint.
Well, and it's funny because everybody talks about Scream Bloody Gore in 1987, but you said Necrophagia, Season of the Dead. I mean, that to me, that album is just like absolute masterpiece, and that's
an Ohio band. So I heard those guys pretty early on, and because they only lived about an hour and a half from where I grew up, So,
did you get to see them back then, or
no? What there was this band called Brain Aside that we used to go see a lot, of thrash band, and Tim Owens was the singer, and a bunch of my friends were you know, I mean, I got to be friends with all those guys and jam with a bunch of them later and all that, but they the guitar player Steve Trent, after the fact, he told me he's like, yeah, this band Necrophagia opened up for us, and I'm like, what? I saw just about every Brain Aside show, and the one I didn't see was the one where Necrophagia played. He's like, they were terrible. I'm like, probably, but I want to see it so bad. You know?
Yeah. if you listen to those demos and then you fast forward to Season of the Dead, I mean, it's like
I saw Necrophagia, of course, you know, in the way later
later
years,
on.
but it's not really the same band anymore or anything. You
No,
know,
not
you
at
know.
all. There's
But
nothing. Nothing.
I didn't see the good version of Necrophagia. You know.
Yeah. But I mean, that record, I always thought gets looked over. It's like they always talk about Scream Bloody Gore, but Season of the Dead is just unbelievable.
Yeah,
it still blows my mind.
Personally, I like it better, but that might be because of my location and stuff. But I mean, Mental Decay, that's just so evil, you know?
Yeah, me too. I'll take Season of the Dead over Scream Bloody Gore.
Right.
You know.
So, Alex, I have a question. In the Philly area, so we're talking about like early 90s, maybe even late 80s. Man, you had like a melting pot of different music styles and bands in the Philly area, like what you had, probably Slaughter, Bon Jovi, Cinderella, maybe Poisonish, all that. And it doesn't seem like y'all hated each other, even though you were different.
Oh, no, we hated each other.
Oh, okay. I was wrong. And I guess that, like, you and I talk offline, and I know you don't like one of them a lot, but you never say like, I hated those.
Obviously, you know, if you go back to the 80s, it was all about Kill Posers and all that kind of stuff. You know, so you know, I have respect for some of those bands, like Cinderella. They were a great band, you know.
Yeah.
I love that first record. Night Songs, great shit.
Oh yeah.
They were, you know, but Philly was basically glam and a lot of punk. There was a lot of punk there.
Right.
But you know, the guys that kind of changed that was originally Black Task and then Ample Bitch. You know, so those two guys, and they were, you know, huge influences on me, both those bands. So, and you know, speaking of thrash guys, I saw somebody in the comments wrote about, and it wasn't Ample Bitch, and no, Ample Bitch were very supportive of us, you know, so which was cool because they were heroes, and you know, they were one of the bands that didn't talk so much smack. They were kind of embraced what we were doing, which was really cool, you know.
Right.
So, but yeah, but that scene in Philly, there was nothing like, you know, my old band at all. You know, we were the first to do that there. But
yeah, it just seems like when you and I talk, like you've told me some of the bands that came up through there, and it's amazing that they were all kind of in the same area, and to me didn't kill each other.
Well,
but I know you came out as a Poison fan. You told me.
Well,
that was a lie. That's a lie.
Yeah. Fortunately, we had the tri-state area, so
yeah,
the guys that we were friends with were from North Jersey and New York. So you had Rigor Mortis, which became Immolation, and you had like John McEntee, Incantation, and you know, the Profanatica guys and Mortician guys. So that was kind of like our people, you know. So we hung out with them. We had to go up to North Jersey and New York to hang out, and then they started to come down our way as well. And then you had you know, Virginia and Maryland. You had Ex Mortis in Maryland. You had Deceased in Virginia. You know?
Yeah. Aggie said he was just joking with you.
And then you had Necrosion come out 2 years after us. You know,
a few years later, then John McEntee and Will came here and made Cleveland their home base. Right. You know?
Yeah. Right. And kind of made it Incan's home in a sense. What I guess 94 or something like that. 93.
Yeah, 94. Yeah.
With Kyle joining the band, and
John came here and formed the new version of Incantation from Decrepit and
that's right.
All of our bands over here, you know.
Yeah, it's Blood of Christ, and
he had Rojak in there for a minute. Kyle says there's a demo where Tom was singing on an Incantation demo. I've never heard it.
Oh wow!
He said he still has it. He said he has it somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'd love to hear that. Actually, you know.
Yeah.
Was that I guess around the time that Will and Mary from Primeval came up and cut that demo they did? I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's interesting. Didn't know that. You know.
So, what is your all's opinion? I know I've asked, you know, individually. We've talked about this a little bit, but you know, as far as like death metal staying raw and underground, what's y'all's, you know, impression of that? Or like, I mean, do you think it should stay underground and raw, or more mainstream? Or
I'm not one of those people. I think more people get into it, the better. I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. You know, maybe when I was a kid, I was like this elitist about it because it's kind of like, oh, this is my thing, and nobody's allowed to like it. Nobody's whatever. You know?
As a listener, I like the raw stuff the best. You know.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, still to this day, it's like people talk about this debut album or that debut album, and I'm just like, nah, fuck that. The demos fucking kill that. You know. You know. But
I've always been of the thought, like, no matter how big a band gets, if you can still see that they're sticking to like a sincere place of heart, and like, you know, like it doesn't make much sense that Cannibal Corpse can sell 3,000 to 4,000 tickets.
I think it's amazing. I'm super happy.
Like, they do, and they haven't done it by changing what they do to become like softer or less extreme, more accessible or whatever. Like they kind of have stuck to their guns doing it. You know?
I think Cannibal Corpse in general, like they became more death metal as time went on. They were kind of more thrashy in the beginning, and it just got more dark as time went on. You know, and it's impressive to see a band like them that, you know, didn't sell out. You know, and to have the success that they've had. I mean, it's amazing. You know, and consistent. You know, and even recently, the last couple of tours that I've done with them, it just seems like it just keep getting bigger. You know, like as time goes on. So it's
so you can be in the death metal world, you can be successful without selling. I feel like Barbara Walters.
Well, nobody. I don't think any of us that started doing this music ever thought that it would get to the point it is now. You know, like I always use this story. So my friend Sam plays drums in Mortician and band Morpheus Descends. We went to see it was Carcass reunited, and there was their first show in the States. They did it played in New York, so it was 2,100 people, sold out show, and we're both sitting there just going like, you think years ago, like you'd see Carcass selling out 2,100 people? You know, it's like you never would think that.
I never thought that death metal, the growl itself, would become as mainstream as it. I thought that would always keep it underground because there's no way people are going to like that outside of us. You know, that's stretched into all kinds of genres that I would never listen to where they're growling now and shit. I'm like, and there's bands that are huge. A lot of those bands, you know.
Well, you know,
I never would have thought that. You know,
some of the people that listen to that music. I mean, it's like me with all music at my age. Death growl, real words. I don't know what the fuck half of them are saying anyway.
Yeah.
Like what either? Like even like words that you can hear that are articulate. So.
Sometimes it becomes more of like the vocals almost become like this percussion instrument.
Well, it's kind of like rhythmic, something so extreme, you know. Yeah. That, you know, how do you sing? You know, sing like Jeff Tate, you know, like over that. You know, it's like
that's true too.
You know, that's a tough thing to do to pull that off. You know, so I think, I mean, obviously, the way things started has gone on over the years. You get into the '90s, and you know, and then a lot of the newer, younger bands out today. It's just like you know, like I can't understand anything. Period. I don't know.
You know, it sounds like an old curmudgeon.
you know.
But I mean, if we circle back though to like when the 90s hit and things start to change, I think another thing that changes is manufacturers of like guitars and amplifiers by then are starting to make stuff specifically for players who are into that style of sound and music, which is a big change too. Like you can buy a fairly inexpensive guitar amp from that era during that era, I think, where you could get all the gain you'd ever need straight from the amp. Whereas like before you're dealing with, pedals pushing it and high output pickups and stuff. Like you could have a beginner guitar and a beginner amp and start playing along to extreme music, if you got the right one.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have, the 5150, the rectifier, the Marshalls get higher gain, although the 900 is controversial.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the early days, it was just the punk rock attitude towards guitar playing, just turn everything up to 11,
Right.
And, so
at what point do you start to see it switch more from passive to active systems and guitars? Or for some of you, it hasn't, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm 10 years younger, I think, than like Alex and Matt. So like the EMGs were always kind of around when I started playing, but they were like either people who wanted really super clean tones, like almost, plug into a jazz chorus and just have it be super hi-fi, or, metal stuff. But I never got into it. But
yeah, I mean, I was pretty blown away by that when I first got my first set of EMGs. It was just like, oh shit, I don't have to do so much to the amp, and because it was just such a hot, gainy, loud pickup, and then I went at one point I was going to change because over time you're tone chasing and things change of what you like, as far as guitar tones, and you kind of figure out things too. It's like it's not all about all the gain. It's in your hand,
Right.
And so I was going to switch to back to passive pickups, and then I discovered Fishman pickups by mistake, and that was kind of like a pass, like the articulation of a passive pickup with hotness of EMG.
That's kind of what I think about the headset. The EMG headset is similar to that. That's what I like. That's what I have in all my V's is the headsets.
I tell you what, that's my favorite set. I'm not a big EMG person, but I do like those a lot.
I always like I use the 81, 85 combo for a long time, and I liked it. But once the headset, it's got a broader scope. It's not as compressed, and like that's a pretty squashed tone you get out of the 81, and you don't get that out of the Hetfield bridge pickup.
That's what I always heard from the EMGs was like almost like a narrowness to them. And then like I had a friend who's got a guitar with those Seymour Duncan blackouts, and I kind of preferred those to the. I've not played the headset.
I don't like the blackouts. I tried that because Sammy loves those. Sammy Dwayne loves those, and he told me, he's like, "What are you doing with those EMGs?" And they're gonna get some blackout. I'm like, "I'll try it." So I went home and I tried one, and I had it in there for like a day, and I told my dude to put the EMG
what
back.
Did Sammy do? He told us. What's Sammy have in his new guitars?
I mean, last I knew he was using those blackout twos.
Yeah. Well, I could be totally wrong, but in my opinion, the headset sounds a lot like the Will Adlers. They're very similar to me, to my ear. I could be way off.
I never tried a Will Adler, so I don't.
Yeah. Laura said she can't see an act. Laura, what do you use out of curiosity? And I'll throw it up when she puts it up here. There's something else I was going to ask on pickups. I forget. I I don't remember. Carry on. Senior moment.
Well, again, I think the 90s, I mean, when I started playing guitar, it was like early-ish 90s. And I remember just that sort of seeming to be the era when Seymour Duncan started adding more different types of items to their line versus just like a JB, a 59, and a couple other things. Then it was like this, like every, like from A to B, there was like all points in between of output levels and applications, and then kind of insane levels of output to a degree. And DiMarzio was doing that too. I was in a band with a guy, and he's like, I bought these Steve Morse signature pickups because they're the highest output pickups that they make that are passive. And I was just like, yeah, but like, do you like how they sound? He's like, well, I just want the output. And I think, I think a lot of literature from people reading interviews of bands going, I want more of this, I want more of that, would make people use their eyes instead of their ears to buy product in that time too.
Yeah. When a lot of people like to go on
Duncan pickups, I like the JBs.
Yeah, I like JBs. I like.
I still love the JBs. Great pickups.
Yeah.
The JB varies.
Those are great in a Les Paul. A Les Paul with JBs sounds fucking awesome.
I just put one in my Les Paul, and I was like, why? And I've had this particular Les Paul for like 15 something years. And I've never thought it sounded like it was supposed to. And then I had Roger's pickup in it. I put Roger's pickup in a different guitar, which had a JB, and I swapped them. And I was like, that's why I played the guitar so
perfect combo. Perfect.
Yeah,
combo.
it's crazy. It's like the one pickup that, and this has been like one of my main guitars for years.
I think the JB is just one of those pickups that's just never going to go away. It's just
it should. No, it's perfect. It's a great pickup.
You know what? I tried recently because one of the last guitars I got, well, actually that red one right there, that had Seymour Duncan special. Custom. I'm sorry, custom. Seymour Duncan custom.
Okay, yeah.
That's a really great sounding pickup too.
It still lives right outside that door right there on a shelf.
The V's, I use the Gibson V's, more than any other guitar, and like you take that top off, you take the pick guard cover off, the whole thing is routed out, and then it's got the whole backside is so there's not a lot of girth to the body on a V. So the active, I like the head pickups in there because they give you a little boost where there's no wood to do that for you almost. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I took a Rhodes V and I squished some Fishman Fluence in it.
I like the
a lot of shit in a little space. Yeah, I got it all in there.
The 5766 set, kind of similar.
I have that in one of my V's.
Yeah,
those sound pretty good too.
Mm-hmm.
I put a custom 5 in my Jackson Rhodes, and I love it because it's like not quite as hot as a JB. It's got a little bit more sweetness to it, but if you want it to get gnarly, it can.
I had a Jackson Rhodes. I had the RR1. But it had a Floyd. That's why I got rid of it because I just don't even want a tremolo at all on my guitar. I just want the top bridge only. But and a Floyd especially is so. It's so finicky, and little thing pops out when you're trying to put strings in it. Like I just hated it. I fucking hated it. But the guitar was great, and it had JBs in it, or it had a JB and a 59 or whatever I think. But that guitar sounded mean as fuck, But I didn't like the Floyd. But the JB in the RR1 was sick sounding.
When I bought mine, it had a Invader in it, which to me was just like too much of everything, kind of.
I never tried one.
Yeah, they're kind of wild. Like they're super hot, which is fine, but it's just like it was to a point of like being unable to tame it when I wanted it to. So but they come stock with JBs. I bought it used, so it came with that. Then I put the custom 5 in it. It's pretty cool. It's just like if you wanted your JB to be a little sweeter. That's all.
Jeremy, I'm curious to see if you can notice a difference once you play it more between the scatter wound pickup and like a regular machine wound.
Okay.
Like how articulate they are. I know we use articulate a lot, but that's only.
I wonder if the scatter winding is what creates those interesting harmonics I'm getting with the sustained like lead guitar notes.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like I've engaged a wah. And if you hit a sweet spot in a wah and you hold a note, it gives you this crazy feedbacky thing. It's like doing that with just like an overdrive pedal.
Yeah. Well, and it's like I told you, and especially on the PAFs, like my description of it is like playing an open C chord.
Yeah.
You can hear the open C chord when you
hear all the notes of the chord.
Yeah, but when you do it with a scatter wound, it's almost like you can hear like every note in the chord.
Yeah.
It sort of breaks it down. So I'm curious to see if you'll tell a difference. So Laura answered my question. Yeah, I think we asked her this before, if I'm not mistaken. I remember the telly, the lipstick neck and the slanted bridge single coil set up in B. Wow.
I can't imagine a telly with an active pickup in it, so maybe that's why she hates it so much.
Well, there's not necessarily for metal, but they have the Greg Koch set for Fishman that's active, and they're very good. But Fishman makes good stuff.
That's another cool and interesting point I saw in there. Set up to B, so that's something we didn't discuss as far as.
I was going to go there, but you all are still in the 90s.
So, and there is definitely a distinction there of the bands too, and the sound. It was like the bands that would tune down, the bands that still stuck with the
80s bands were mostly D standard death metal band, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of those were D standard. That's where Ringworm to D standard. I love that. I love D standard. It's great tuning.
Yeah, I mean, the first band that I can remember that tuned down the super low was Carcass, and I heard their demo actually, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Because I mean, I was tuned down, but I just didn't realize that I was tuned down.
Yeah,
But when I first started playing this kind of stuff, but yeah, like hearing Carcass was just like, wow.
When I showed up to Blood of Christ, I showed up to my first to audition for Blood of Christ, basically I had never tuned my guitar down before, and I just had regular strings on, and it was tuned to standard tuning, and I was using an Ibanez RG560 with a Floyd on it, like an Ibanez Floyd, but a floating tremolo. And Tom's like, I think maybe he was in C, I think at the time, so C, and I'm like, okay. I tuned that thing down. The tremolo is sitting like this, like the strings are just like I could barely do it, but it worked. He liked, I learned the songs and I stayed in the band, but I never attempted that, and then had to do it on the spot with a guitar that was totally not set up for it.
So I'm gonna Cheech, I'll come back to you. She tuned to D first, but the more she was listening to Bill era Napalm and early Carcass, it all changed.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about tuning. I was going to bring that up. I'm glad y'all did. Dude has a telly cell with actives.
Then Trey got a 7-string.
Oh wow, spaghetti.
Yeah.
So
and it's funny because Trey used to talk smack about down tuning.
So, I did, like some of my favorite Morbid Angel moments are like.
But this is before that. I remember I think I asked him what his opinion was of Dawn of Possession when that first came out, and he said, they fucking tuned down too low and it sounds like shit,
Sure, dude.
Yeah. Thank you, Trey. Those guys, thank you. Yeah.
I noticed nowadays in the metal world a lot of different lower tunings, all over the place tunings, drop F sharps, drop this, drop that, and crazy thick string gauges.
Yeah.
Like almost, especially on a 7-string, it's almost like a bass string on it.
Yeah. I mean, I've been using thick strings for 30 years now, so I'm just so used to it.
I've really lightened my strings in recent years, like a lot. My hand, I have carpal tunnel, and it's just my hands don't like the thick strings anymore like they used to.
Yeah.
But so
what are you using for detuning? like the D standard tuning?
D standard. For 20 years, I used 10 to 52s in D standard, and
Okay.
then but recently I started going. I have to get a custom set because I've been going 9 to 50.
Oh wow, okay, that's pretty.
9
slick.
to 50.
Not 9 with D is pretty slicky.
But you know the 50, you know the thicker lower strings with the lighter higher strings makes it you know, gives you the tension that you need. You know what I mean?
It's also a cool sound. I've messed with like the heavy bottom, light top strings before. There is like a tonal character to those, like to the chords you play with those, that's different than like a standard set, that I think is interesting.
I work with I like Ernie Ball's. I work with Ernie Ball and the guy Tim Dove at Ernie Ball. He suggested, because they don't make. I mean, I don't know if any string company makes a 9 that goes above 46 or 48. Maybe you know what I mean. You know, 46 is the highest that Ernie Ball goes on a 9. You know.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, we could put you a custom set together, and he put what he thought would be balanced. You know, and you can't go too high on the low. You know, you can't go to a 52 really.
Like you want your neck to
balance. Yeah. So 9 to 50 he thought would be balanced pretty good, and I've been using that. And it works really good. I like it.
Yeah, there was a minute where there was a Zakk Wylde GHS set. It was like 10 to 60, but I think it started messing people's necks up.
Yeah, I used that one time. One time I went to Guitar Center when I was in Decrepit. After Tom had died, and I was playing guitar in Decrepit, and I went. It was in the 2000s, and we had a show. We were opening for Unleashed at Peabody's, and I went to the Guitar Center, and I was out of my strings, and I'm like, I just need something like, what do you got that's a thick set? And he gave me the Zakk Wyldes, and I put those on, and I went to practice, and I liked them. They were good. They, you know, at the time I wasn't having this carpal tunnel issue or anything, and they were real solid. I liked it. And then I put it. It was wintertime. I forgot to take the guitar in. It was freezing outside. I went to the Unleashed show, opened up the case. I just put those strings on. I pulled it out, and the strings are all loose, and the headstocks just snapped. Headstock snapped. That Zakk Wylde set destroyed my Les Paul.
Oh my god!
What are you tuned to in Shed the Skin? Where are you go?
We are B standard.
B standard.
I wish we weren't. I mean, I wish when we started that we were doing. You know, the idea we started it doing Blood of Christ songs. You know, we still do at least one Blood of Christ song anytime we play live, but usually the song Shed the Skin. But so I was like, well, Blood of Christ towards the end was tuned into B standard, so that's what we're tuned. And I wish that we didn't, because I just like I like a little high. C would be good, you know, just you don't have to use as thick as strings to keep it good. And
I used to tune to C sharp and Black Anvil, and I was using 12s on a Gibson scale, like 12 to 52. So I got a bunch of 12 to 52s kicking around from the band I'm not in anymore, and I put them on this Jackson, tuned it down to B because of the longer scale length. I thought it would be, you know, thick enough, but like they feel like 9s, lighter than 9s on this thing. I don't know what to do.
Oh, I guess.
I guess I don't know.
I tried, you know, 12 gauge a few years back. I figured like, all right, let me try, you know, a little thinner gauge, and it just felt so bizarre to me.
You're tuned to C, Alex?
C standard, yeah. And then Ruinous were A standard.
Oh wow.
So, in B standard, I've been using 11 to 54s on my V's, and it works really good. But I tried that on an Explorer. I have my Explorer, and I'm like, oh, it works great on my V's. It should work on the Explorer.
Yeah.
Hell no. It was all buzzing all the way up the neck. You couldn't, just dead. Wow. No note coming out.
Yeah, and that's the scale length is what 24 3/4 scale.
Scale length, yeah. Right. You know what's weird is I have a bunch of Gibson scale guitars because I'm like a Les Paul guy, and there are just certain guitars that the strings feel tighter on than others, and I can't figure out why. I have them all set up the same. I even have the tailpiece height pretty close on all of them. It's just like a weird thing. Like some of them you hit the string and it just tighter, and others they're not, even though everything should theoretically be the same.
Yeah.
So before I get back to Cheeches, so when I said super thick strings, there's a couple guitars that come in here. One is a baritone. The string is so thick it has a taper on it like a bass string.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah, like thick strings, super low tuning, and that's a lot of what I'm seeing now with the younger metal crowd. Cheech.
Those kids don't bend the strings though. They don't know. They're playing the piano now.
Yeah, right. And they don't have carpal tunnel yet.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, because some of that I noticed, like when you hit the string, if the string's heavy, there's an impact to your wrist.
Yeah, it's my right hand. Both hands go numb. Both hands go numb when I play a lot, especially with the faster stuff. With we've been doing a Black Sabbath tribute band, and my hands don't go numb when I do that at all. But when we're doing Shed the Skin or Ringworm, and I'm down picking like James Hetfield and Slayer picking, but they go numb, and it's hard for me to even tell if I'm holding the pick. So I spend a lot more energy focusing on holding the pick than where you want to just focus on playing. But I'm focusing almost entirely on just gripping the pick. So I'm getting surgery. Like tomorrow, they're supposed to schedule my surgery. So it should get that fixed. But yeah, that's been a big issue for me lately.
Yeah.
All right, Cheech wants to know: are you guys fans of BC Rich? Why did they go down in popularity in the metal world?
I mean, that is a quintessential death metal guitar. If you think about it, all those between Chuck and when I think of an Ironbird, it's all I want to do is play an Ironbird, play death metal riffs,
Well, nowadays it's offset guitars.
I think a lot of
into.
BC Rich might be suffering from the fact that the market is just flooded with a lot of affordable, really great guitars from other companies, When they started, they were the most extreme body styles around, I think, in the 70s and 80s when they came out. And everybody kind of caught up to them. And, and over the years, there's some eras of their guitars are better than others. Their marketing has been better at times than other times.
I always loved the Bitch, because of Dave Mustaine and Jeff Hanneman, in particular.
All those knobs and switches freaking
out. Once I tried a BC Rich guitar, I didn't think they were very good guitars. They look cool,
Rojak had a big collection of those, and he had his were all the vintage ones with the R, with just the R on the headstock, and they were mostly really nicely made guitars. But then then the NJ series and all that, I don't know the quality. I don't think the quality was quite there. I don't really like, even the nicer ones aren't really for me.
The best one I ever played was which I really like.
Dwayne has all those now. Dwayne has all those Tom. BC
I know Dwayne. Yeah, Dwayne's got
collection.
But the best one I ever played was a copy of it, a Charvel, and from what I understand, they even commissioned Wayne Charvel to come in and build some of those guitars in the late '80s. So it was
they still do that.
Gunslinger, and it's a USA one, and a friend of mine had one. Bolt on neck, maple neck, and man, that guitar, it's just unbelievable. It's one of the best super strats I ever played. Andy LaRock, if you remember, he had the BC Rich Gunslingers that he was playing.
When we played with Demolition Hammer at Irving, us Black Animal Immolation, Jim, the guitar player, he had this old ass BC Rich. I don't even know what body style it was. It was unusual. And he was like, yeah, I bought it when I was 17. It was the case was strapped with a belt and everything. And it was he was like, you want to try it? I was hell yeah, he let me play it. And it was awesome. Nice. Yeah. But I always found there was always something about a BC Rich I would play where I'd be like, this just feels weird. The necks were kind of wide, or they would rest a little weird.
I had a Warlock. I got a Warlock for $600 in the '80s. It was the R logo, neck through, real red. I ended up selling it to Wayne from Solus. He played that that was his main guitar for years. But it was just, it didn't feel good. I didn't think it was very nice, but it just didn't hang well on me, and it was too big and bulky, and I just didn't like it.
Craig Smolowski, who played in Agoraphobia and Immolation. His older brother Tom had was a custom shop, and this was in the 80s. You know, it was a custom shop Mockingbird, and it was built like it was super solid, had inverted crosses in the inlays and all. It was like really sick guitar, but reverse headstock, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it was just like playing like a tree trunk or something like that, you know.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I had an NJ Warlock with a Kaler.
So mine had a Kaler also.
It was kind of fun to learn what a Kaler did, but having grown up on Floyd's and Tunamatics, it was like I don't need more. I don't need a new tremolo pain in the ass in my life. When I
don't know if that bolt, like you said, yours was a bolt-on. I'm not sure if that it probably wasn't as. Mine weighed like 1,000 fucking pounds. It was a neck through, and it just. I'm only 5'7", and that guitar was way too much fucking tree for me.
A lot of those BC Rich bodies, like the Bitch, even a Mockingbird, like it doesn't look like it'd be bulky, but when you hold it and you put it on your lap, you're kind of like, man, there's a lot of. It's not like as straightforward as an Explorer. Like all the curves on it make it more.
Yeah,
cumbersome, I guess.
I feel the same way about my Explorer, though. I have an '89 Explorer. It's a great guitar, but when it's hanging off my shoulder on stage, it's just too fucking big for me. You know, it's too heavy and big. It sticks out too far. You know?
Yeah.
Well, you know what Alex, you know what I think the best BC Rich that ever was made is the Stranger Things one that they did a couple of years ago.
Oh, the Warlock.
The only reason there's going to be a joke, Jeremy, you know that. The only reason it was the best is I accidentally bought it to test pickups in, and I found out it was a collector's edition, and I flipped it on Reverb the next day and made $1,000. Best BC Rich ever made. I've never watched Stranger Things. I didn't even know it was a thing. I literally bought it to test pickups in.
But to answer your question, I would say none of us here are big BC Rich guys.
No, definitely not.
Well, for the one I am, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they have a cult, you know. They sort of have like a cult following. The people who you associate with them, you almost only associate them with. Like,
I like the part of the set where Trey busts out the red Iron Bird. You know, that's cool to watch, but I don't want to play it. But it's cool. It's cool when he does.
I never played one until a few years back, an Iron Bird. So I was on tour with Blood Incantation. Both those guys played the Iron Bird. So I came out and guested 2 nights on their set. And so I was, I had to use one of their guitars because of their tuning. And I tell you, it was so just like the balance on the guitar was just so bizarre and top heavy too.
Right.
And I just couldn't really get a handle.
You gotta give it to people who play guitars like that. You gotta want it. You gotta want that look and that vibe, right? Because they do look cool as hell. Like
but it may be comfortable to them. It's just for us.
True. Like if you learn on something, because I mean, as a Les Paul guy, I've heard a million people like, how do you reach the high frets? I'm like, I figured it out. It's like
you got to. It takes some.
But I learned how to play lead guitar on a Les Paul. I couldn't play it when I got my first one, and then that's how I learned. So it's easy for me now when I play my Rhodes or like my Super Strats. There are things that I'm like, this is a little easier here, but
the Gibson V is like, I like the Gibson V. There's nothing to get in your way up there, really. But I also played many years on Les Pauls, and I still do. I still have 4 of them, and I still like to record with them because they do just sound so fat.
Yeah, they have
one of the things I always love SGs is too. It's just super comfortable and easy access to those.
I have that red SG of mine. The showcase edition. But it's top heavy, like you were saying about the Iron Bird. Like it dives. That headstock is like this big on the thing, and it just wants to dive all the time. And the V's don't do that. They always sit right.
Very balanced. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That answered the question for Cheech.
Yep.
Where now?
Yeah. Anybody else got any questions?
Cover it.
Yeah, I think that's about it. I mean,
Yeah.
well,
this was fun.
Yeah, I could talk crap on death metal for another hour, but
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let's get on Blabbermouth. Let's get some traffic.
Let's talk some shit. You know? But
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I tried to be a little more talkative this week. Last week I had a headache and I was chewing a cough drop.
Before we get out of here, actually, for both of you guys, what do you guys got coming up next? What's new musically?
Jeremy, you got anything?
I'm gonna probably put out a second Scumyard song in the next few weeks. Another demo track. And then other than that, just sort of try to get that band with some more songs, write, record, who knows? Maybe play a show. We haven't played a show yet. So
there you go.
That's about it here.
Ringworm is flying to there's some big hardcore. I wish I do I never know any, like I never pay attention to what's going on. I just know when I have to get on a plane or something.
Yeah,
Ringworm's playing a fest in the Netherlands in a couple weeks.
Cool.
So November 22nd, I think, and Hatebreed's headlining it. It's a big thousands of people kind of fest, whatever, over there with a bunch of bands we've toured with a lot over the years and stuff like that. So that'll be cool. And then then I'm gonna get my carpal tunnel surgery, I think, and take 4 to 6 weeks off of playing guitar.
Well, Alex mentioned Craig. Craig had that surgery, and it was very successful.
Kyle couldn't hold sticks for a little bit.
Yeah,
I remember. He's doing better. I think John McEntee said he had it as well.
He did. Yeah,
and then he's better now. So I've heard a lot of good results from it. And I'm looking forward to.
I had the neck surgery, so I had
from like
I still had problems. No, I was in a couple car accidents. And,
okay.
Multiple other things have happened in my life, and so I have 4 discs replaced, and my neck is bolted together. So all you people out there, now you know why I don't headbang.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
But I still have issues similar to carpal tunnel, so I still have
like numbness. Mine get tingly and numb.
It pulls on my hands and my arm.
We were in Mexico City about a month ago. We Ringworm played a fest in Mexico City, and and I'm up there, and it's like, and there it is. Like 3 songs in, I can't feel my hand, and I always feel like I'm, like. You think you're worse than you are. I watched video back of it, and I'm like, oh, I couldn't even tell that I was struggling, but the whole time that's all I'm thinking about is struggling. And the same thing, Shed the Skin played MDF this year, and it was the same thing. It's like up there, and I'm just fighting to hold that pick instead of like just comfortably playing the guitar, So I can't wait to get this. I can't wait to get it fixed,
Well, you can start playing and get in the zone again versus just trying to battle your way through shit.
Yeah, you have to just go through like sheer determination to get through the set that way, and I would like to get back where I don't need, where I can just play comfortably,
I tell you what, this should make, if any firefighters watch this should make you feel good, because it's not as dangerous as being a musician. You'll have fucked up. Sounds like it's a little riskier.
That's for sure.
At our age, it's like playing this kind of music.
It's the repetition, man. Knowing your body for years.
We have slept on a lot of awkward surfaces.
Yeah.
We're the test of how far you can take playing, extreme stuff, at our age, because nobody's there past our age yet. So,
right. Like, very few. Yeah,
that's true. Well, cool. You ready to wrap it up? If everybody watching will like and subscribe, we appreciate you joining. We had a lot of comments tonight. It's busy over there.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, I'll close it out. Thanks, everybody. Peace out.
Cheers.